The Philadelphia Phillies have made their first big move of the offseason. Rob Thomson reportedly will be back as manager of the team in 2026. Find out whether or not this is the right move for the franchise in today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On Phillies, your number one place for daily, Monday through Friday, Philadelphia Phillies content. So appreciate you joining us. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. By the way, if you're not familiar with my work, you might know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic, doing sports talk radio here in Philly for over 6 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for the past 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Rob Thomson is back. Jon Heyman had the first report yesterday, and there are a lot of surprising things about this. Like, this is crazy news to get, right? One, I'm surprised it happened so quickly. We'll talk about the time frame of the decision. The Phillies only just got knocked out on Thursday, and all of a sudden by Monday, we're already hearing that Rob Thomson is going to be back. It's a pretty quick turnaround, but I guess it kind of has to be. But is this the right decision? We're going to discuss that in depth here to start things off. Also, we'll talk about this later. What does this decision mean for other members of the Phillies, other coaches, the players? Because change is coming. So if it doesn't happen with the manager, you better believe it's happening somewhere else. And then I have kind of a complete loser segment that I want to do at the end of the podcast. And maybe some of you already think I'm a complete loser. I don't know, man. You're all entitled to your opinion. But I am going to be one for a little bit here at the end. And it's more of a hypothetical, potential future loser situation. I'll explain that when we get to it. And it has to deal with the National League Championship Series, which had game 1 last night. Dodgers take the 1-0 lead in that series. But Rob Thomson's back. And man, I was shocked to see Jon Heyman put out that report yesterday. Now, I will say this. Jon Heyman has gotten things wrong before, right? But there are a couple other reporters that have corroborated that story. And that's a situation where you look at it and say, okay, this many guys saying it's a thing. Apparently, Rob Thomson's supposed to be at Dave Dombrowski's press conference on Thursday. You wouldn't have him there if he was getting fired. What do you think? It's going to be like a public execution where he fires him in front of the media? Like, no, he's back. He's going to be the manager of this team in 2026. So I completely believe that report is accurate. We are operating that is 100% factual reality. And I'm surprised, man. I thought he was done. I really did. Like, if you had asked me yesterday whether or not I thought Rob Thomson was going to continue to be the manager of this team, I would have told you no. And it's not so much that he can't get the job done, right? A lot of people will tell you, a lot of Phillies fans will say, Rob Thomson stinks. He can't get the job done. He's not good enough. He's not smart enough. He's not strategic enough. He doesn't know baseball well enough. Get him out of here. I don't believe that's true. He has a .580 winning percentage as manager of the Philadelphia Phillies over the better part of 4 seasons. He has led this team to the postseason 4 straight times. He won the National League once in there. He was a game away from winning the National League back-to-back years. I know this doesn't help you sleep at night, but when evaluating these things, we have to look at the logic and the numbers and the reality of the situation and not just approach this with emotion. I know that's tough to do, right? You may not be able to. That's what I'm here for. It's not I'm much more logical than you. That's not what I'm saying, but it's my job to try and not have the fan reaction to decisions like this where you're hiring or firing managers. And I'll tell you, I would have moved on from Rob Thomson. So if you take this as me saying the Phillies made the right decision, no, I don't think that they did. But I can understand why they did because of the track record, right? There are a large majority of managers in Major League Baseball who have not accomplished what Rob Thomson has accomplished since taking over for the Phillies. They are back-to-back National League East division champions. Prior to 2024, they hadn't done that in 13 years. It'd been a long time since they had won the division. So he's accomplished things. He just hasn't been able to get the Phillies over the hump in October, right? How much of that do you put on the manager? Well, let's break it all down. Because in 2022, sure, does Rob Thomson make the decision to pull Zach Wheeler against Yordan Alvarez, go to Jose Alvarado, who gives up a home run that ends up basically cementing the Phillies losing the World Series? He did that. I hated the decision in the moment. I can still remember my reaction when he was doing it. There's a trash can in one of my buddy's apartments that will not be quite the same after that decision. So, this ain't revisionist. He made a mistake there. But if you believe they lost that series to the Astros because of Rob Thomson, you must forget the Phillies offense getting no hit in Game 4. Also, Houston's the better team. In 2023, did Rob Thomson make a bad decision going with Craig Kimbrell in Arizona in that series against the Diamondbacks? For sure. Did he get 2 home games where his offense went dead silent against the Diamondbacks at Citizens Bank Park with a chance to go to the World Series? He did. Let's look at 2024 against the Mets. What did Rob Thomson mess up in that series? Go back and really tell me. Did he go with the wrong bullpen arms? Because he went with his guys that were all-stars in the 2024 season. Jeff Hoffman, Matt Strahm, Carlos Estevez. They all got shelled. Each and every last freaking one of them. And there was no point where I thought, oh, that's a bad decision to go to the bullpen there by Rob Thomson. No, just the bullpen completely collapsed. Oh, and by the way, your offense did very little outside of Game 2 in that series. Very, very little. So then let's take it to this year. I thought he made a poor decision with Dave Robertson in Game 1. I thought he made a poor decision in Game 2 with the sacrifice bunt in the 9th inning. I thought he made a poor decision going to a Ryan Kerkering in Game 4. I would have left Jesus Luzardo in. So I have 3 games where impact decisions that you could argue cost you games are on the shoulders of the manager. But when you look at the theme of the Philadelphia Phillies under Rob Thomson, the culprit has almost always been the players. And it's almost always been the top of the lineup. And that is on those guys. If you think a manager's job is to tell Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, and Kyle Schwarber to hit the baseball, you don't understand what a manager does, right? That's on them as professional baseball players making hundreds of millions of dollars on their current contracts to figure it out. And yeah, sure, can there be pointers and tips and important things that a manager can do to put their players in the best position to succeed? Absolutely. Has the bullpen been mismanaged plenty of times under Rob Thomson? Absolutely. Find me a manager where you won't see the fan base complain about their bullpen management. My point is this. Rob Thomson should not have been fired based on his record, based on his ability to maintain the clubhouse, based on his decision-making. He shouldn't have. But if Rob Thomson was going to be fired, it was going to be because you thought that message was not the right one for this group of players. For whatever reason, the way Rob Thomson, his style of leadership, does not get these players to the best possible spot in the biggest possible moments. That is why he should have been fired. You can make up whatever you want about, oh, he doesn't do this well. He doesn't do that well. He doesn't understand this, that, or the other thing about baseball. Rob Thomson knows more about baseball than most of us will ever know, right? He's been doing this for a long, long time. So I'm not here to tell you like the guy stinks. And you know what? If the Phillies put a competitive roster out there, they're probably going to win 90-plus games again next year. And they're probably going to be in the running for the division again next year. And Rob Thomson is going to be able to get them to that point. But I don't think the Phillies were falling short because of Rob Thompson's decision-making. The bigger sample size of his 4 postseason runs will tell you they're falling short because of the top of the order not producing And at some point, because you can't move on from Harper and you can't move on from Turner, and I'd be surprised if they don't re-sign Kyle Schwarber, you have to look at it and say, well, they're not getting it done. Rob Thomson is a party to that because of the way he leads and what he sets his team up for. And you have to move on from the more movable piece, which would be the manager. The Phillies chose not to do that. And I think that's a bad decision. For all of the defense of Rob Thomson I just went through, I would have moved on from him simply to change the message in the clubhouse. But that message, the Phillies just told you yesterday with that report that Topper will be back, the message ain't changing. You're going to have the same guy with the same style, with the same strategy in the dugout next year for this team. And that may be disheartening to a lot of Philadelphia Phillies fans. If you see that and you say, well, we're running it back, screw this baseball team, wake me up in October, I'm out on the regular season, they can't prove anything to me until they play in the postseason and win. I understand where you're at today. I don't have an argument against that, besides faith, and I'm not here to make the faith argument right now. I would have preferred to have a different voice for the sake of having a different voice. Sometimes you've got to make a change for the sake of making a change. I compare Philadelphia sports teams to each other a lot. Andy Reid, since leaving the Philadelphia Eagles, since being fired by the Philadelphia Eagles, has gone on to win multiple Super Bowls and cement himself as one of the greatest football coaches in NFL history. Does anyone look at his firing by the Eagles and say, wow, the Eagles got that wrong? No, it was just a time where the message wasn't working. He had run his course in his city. It had nothing to do with the quality of football coach Andy Reid was. It was, does how you coach fit what we're doing? And do your players get the most out of themselves because of your influence? And I can't say that that's the case because of Rob Thomson after these past 4 years of postseason shortcomings. And that's where we were at and why I thought he would be gone. But they made the decision he's not. So what does that mean? What should it mean for other people with the franchise? Because there's no guarantee that any change is coming. But you got to believe they're not just going to run it back, right? We'll talk about the impact that Rob Thomson's return has on other members of the Phillies franchise as we continue today's episode. Let's talk about Monarch Money first, though, because most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. In this economy we're in right now, folks, every dollar counts. And that's why Monarch Money exists. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface. You can get it on your laptop, or you can get it on your phone. And that's because Monarch is built for people with busy lives, which is everybody, everywhere, all the time. So it's for you. If you've been putting off organizing your finances, Monarch is all about you, right? Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. They'll handle the dirty work for you. You get to see the big 1,000-foot view of what your money is doing and how you can be doing better with it. You can identify whether or not you're saving as much as you'd like, what accounts are making you money, what accounts might not be, and the various things you're maybe spending too much on. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. Who does this affect besides Rob Thomson? Well, it affects a lot of people. When you bring back the manager in an offseason, early in an offseason, I'm shocked they made this decision so quickly. It opens up other people to potential scapegoating, right? Heck, it even affects us here in the podcast and content and media world, right? It's a big time decision for the Phillies. And speaking of us, if you want to become a member of the Everydayers crew here on Locked On Phillies, someone who watches and listens every day, and we'd appreciate it if you did. And that's why we work so hard to put out good content for you. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube. It's free and easy to subscribe. It'll get you notifications when new episodes are posted. It's the easiest thing in the world for you to do. but it also really helps us out. And we're also available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure, if you're listening, you're rating and reviewing. So thank you, however you're joining us today on Locked On Phillies. But Rob Thomson, I thought, as you could tell by my comments earlier in the episode, was going to be maybe not the scapegoat. Because if he was fired, I wouldn't have looked at it and said, that's undeserved. I would have looked at it and said, we've reached an impasse. He is the more movable piece that's in that hierarchy of Phillies personnel, right? And with that, he's the guy to go. That was my whole argument. It's not so much he's deficient. It's that he hasn't been completely as good as you'd like him to be. And you can't move Harper, you can't move Turner, and you're probably going to re-sign Schwarber because he hit 56 damn home runs this year, right? It seems it seems to make sense to me. I don't know. People are mad at all those guys right now, but that's the reality of the situation. So Turner's going to be here. Harper's going to be here. Schwarber is probably going to be here. I still hope he's going to be here, but I lean strongly towards yes based on reports that we heard throughout the year. And now we know that Thompson's back. And Dave Dombrowski sold in the press conference Thursday with Rob Thomson. So plot twist, spoiler alert, if you think Dave Dombrowski's going anywhere, you're crazy. He ain't going to be gone. Well, you think he's going to sit down next to Rob Thomson after helping John Middleton decide that Topper would be back, and then John Middleton pulls like a Game of Thrones backstab on him and says, yo, Dombo, you're out. That ain't going to happen. And frankly, Dombrowski shouldn't be gone because you're not getting president of baseball operations, the quality of Dave Dombrowski anywhere available right now. You're just not. Eventually he'll move on and you'll promote from within, but you got to stick with the guy, but he is on thinner and thinner ice every year. So Dombrowski, I'm going to tell you, is 100% going to be back. Topper, Turner, Harper, and I believe Schwarber, even though he's going to be a free agent. If you don't think the Philadelphia Phillies understand where their fan base is at right now, you do not understand owner John Middleton. John Middleton is not one of these venture capitalists from the other side of the world or the other side of the country or outside of this market that doesn't understand Phillies fans, that just bought a team and said, I don't know. I'm going to see if I can make some money on this. He's a Phillies fan, and he gets ticked off when they lose. Big time. You see him interacting with fans all the time. He is one of you. He is just a very rich one of you who happens to have majority ownership of the Philadelphia Phillies. So he knows that heads have to roll. This fan base is not just going to accept, Alec Boehm's playing third, Bryce Stott's playing second, Trey Turner's playing short, Harper at first, Romito at catcher, Castellanos in right, Martian left, somebody, maybe Justin Crawford in center, right? That could feasibly happen. All of those guys are under team control, besides Kyle Schwarber, who you expect them to re-sign still, as long as you're seeing what I'm seeing. So what happens if that happens? People lose their minds with the team. People go to less of the games. People buy less of the gear. People believe less in the team. The noise around the team gets to a fever pitch. If it's not already, which over the past week, it's felt like it's at that. But my point is this. John Middleton understands he can't just run it back. Dave Dombrowski takes his marching orders from John Middleton. If the owner says a guy needs to be gone, it's on Dombrowski to figure out how to get him gone. So who wears it now that Topper is back? Because if you move on from the manager, you're essentially saying, yeah, the players, we believe in them. That guy, we didn't believe in him. But now you say you believe in the manager. So guess what? Nick Castellanos. Guess what? JT Romito, Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, Brandon Marsh, Max Kepler, Harrison Bader, the entire bullpen pretty much outside Joan Duran. Like, y'all are on the chopping block right now. And assistants are on the chopping block as well. I would be floored if Kevin Long and Caleb Cotham are both back in their current positions with the Philadelphia Phillies. I think Kevin Long is probably the easiest guy to look at and be like, yo, sorry, man, offense didn't cut it in the biggest spot again. We know what you've done for Schwarber. We know a lot of these guys like you. we got to make a change. And sorry, you're the guy. Caleb Cotham would be a hard sell only because the pitching staff, the rotation, I should say, has been so darn good under his tutelage. So I expect him still to be here. Now, could you move on from Dusty Wathan, third base coach, Paco Figueroa, first base coach, and the other stuff that they do with the team? You could do that as well. I wouldn't be shocked if multiple assistants are now gone and Rob Thomson changes some stuff with his staff. And that may be a direct order from Dombrowski and Middleton saying, yo, you're coming back, but we need you to change some stuff with your staff. And it also means that if they don't make significant changes to the roster, on yesterday's episode, I said the number one priority is altering the 5 spots outside of the stars in your lineup. So Schwarber, Turner, Harper, and Realmuto, I think you got to have back. And outside of those 4, I'd be down for them to change everything about those other spots, whether it's promotion of minor league players, free agents, trades. That needs to change. Well, now it needs to change more than ever because you cannot, don't you dare, and yes, I'm talking to you, Philadelphia Phillies, don't you dare bring back all of those same guys and the same manager and the same bench coaches and everything and try and tell us, well, we were close. Look at the Dodgers. I mean, come on. We can do this. Believe in us again. Because I'm telling you right now, and I believe I speak for the fan base when I say this, we will not take that and we will not believe in your team. We won't. I'm sorry. It doesn't mean we won't cheer them on when good things happen. But if you think there's going to be a large portion of the fan base that says, wake me up in October and maybe we'll see if there's anything you guys can do and doesn't care one lick about the regular season, you're absolutely right. There will be. So, it's funny. I was just kind of criticizing the Phillies for maybe having this part of mentality. And this is more of a hypothetical type of conversation that I want to discuss with you next. And it's going to make me sound like a real loser. But I want to bring this up because I'm trying to be fair to the reality of the situation. So I will be the martyr for the loser take that maybe needs to be considered at some point in the near future. I'll tell you what that is and why I'm doing all you a favor, or at least trying to, I think, as we continue today's episode. All right, let's talk about FanDuel first because the NFL season's here. It's rolling, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you put down $5, and if it hits, you're going to unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Now, football has been crazy, all over the place. I don't know who's winning and who's losing and what's going on, but I do know there's a couple of really good players out there. So what you do is you take your $5 if you're a new user and you bet it on something like, I don't know, Jonathan Taylor, who's having a great year in Indy, to go for more than 25 yards on the ground. That might be a payout of, 5 cents. But if you're a new user, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets if that very safe bet wins. And then you take your $300 in bonus bets and you bet it on whatever you'd like, whether that's money line, spread, props, parlays, teasers, all that great stuff that FanDuel has available. And you check them out. They have a great interface. The payouts are fast, safe, and easy. That's why they're the number one sports book. And that's why we're telling you about them. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started with our friends over at FanDuel. Buckle up. All right. I've given plenty of disclaimer to this. I know I'm going to sound like a loser. I know there's going to be people in the comments who call me a loser. That's totally fine. I'm doing this for the acknowledgement of the possibility of this reality. What are you saying, Connor? Let me break it down for you. The Los Angeles Dodgers go to Milwaukee last night. They win a 1-run game to take game 1 of the National League Championship Series. Hey, doesn't that sound familiar to what they did to Philadelphia in the NLDS? Here's where I want to take you right now. Let's say, right, and again, this is all hypothetical, but this is where we're at in the moment with the Dodgers up 1-0. Let's say the Dodgers run through the Brewers in like 4 games or 5 games, either a sweep or a gentleman's sweep in the NLCS. And then let's say they match up with the Seattle Mariners, who are up 2-0, I believe, on the Toronto Blue Jays in the ALCS right now. And they just take them to the woodshed in the World Series, and they beat them in 4 or 5 games. And then they go 4-5-5 on their way. Oh, and by the way, 2-0 against the Reds, on their way to their second straight World Series title. And nobody really seems to even give them a sweat. Heck, let's even take this a step further and say that they win these games comfortably and they don't have to play these tight games like they did against the Philadelphia Phillies. And at the end of the day, the Dodgers are holding the World Series trophy. Now, the fan in me, and I'm sure the fan in you, would say, damn, if Rob Thomson doesn't put David Robertson back out there, if Rob Thomson doesn't call for the bunt in game 2, if Rob Thomson doesn't put a Ryan Kerkering in the game in the 12th inning in game 4, if the top of the order hits, if Matt Strahm doesn't give up the home run to Teoscar Hernandez, if one or two things go different, that's the Phillies with a clear path to the World Series, and they could be hoisting that trophy. I think that's a fair place to live too. But if the Dodgers just roll through this postseason like a hot knife through butter, will there be a point where the Phillies organization, Dave Dombrowski, looks into a camera, talks into a microphone, and says, look, we ran into a really good team that nobody else was even close to beating either. It is the Dodgers and everybody else, and it's going to be very hard to be what the Dodgers are because players will go there and play for no money and defer it all into 40 years into the future. And next thing you know, you got Shohei Ohtani along with a whole bevy of other future Hall of Famers, right? Like that whole idea of the Death Star Dodgers that we talked about before the season started, well, it may still be coming true, even though their regular season was not nearly as impressive as teams like the Brewers and the Phillies and the Blue Jays. Like, we may see that it didn't matter and that they were just getting to the postseason, and once they get in, they were going to be unbeatable, right? And I know this makes me sound like a loser. I'm not saying that this is where I will be at that point, but I am acknowledging that there's a good chance we hear the Phillies bring it up. And if they do, again, reasonable, right? That you look at it and say, if I take the emotion out of it and you lost to that team and you played them tight in every single game in that series, besides the one game that wasn't tight, which you won, couldn't you make the argument that the Phillies are closer than we'd all like to admit? I know I'm going to duck now while people are trying to throw tomatoes at their computer or phone or however you're listening to this. I'm just throwing that out there. It makes me feel dirty to even bring up and be the one who voices that thought process, because the competitor in you, the fan in you, should say, screw that. I'm not playing for consolation prize of, oh, well, we played the champs well. This is Philadelphia. This ain't, okay, I'm not going to pick. We'll go Colorado. All due respect to the Rockies, but they're the baseball punching bag these days. This ain't Colorado. This ain't, hey, we tried hard and it's good enough. No, we want to see you hoist the trophy. And if you can't do that, change things until you can. But part of me does say that you might look back at this and say, damn, well, you ran into a buzzsaw. It would have been really nice to get the 1 seed because at least you could have played the Dodgers over 7 games, which would have given you a little bit more margin for error. The lengthier the series, I guess, the more room for error you would potentially have. Like, I don't know. Part of this is hindsight is 2020. Part of this is me trying to predict something. But after seeing the Dodgers win in Milwaukee in game 1, go on the road and steal one, set themselves up for a league championship series victory potentially, and then a World Series appearance against an American League side that all year people said was the lesser side of this bracket. The American League seemed like the weaker league when you look at the quality of teams at the top. This is not revisionist. This is what we thought during the season. I don't know. I don't know if Phillies fans can come to terms with that. I don't think we will. I don't think you want to hear it today. I don't think you want to hear it a month from now when the World Series is all said and decided. But if there comes a point this offseason where the Phillies try to make that argument, don't be surprised. And that would seem to say less change is needed than more. And that will drive Philadelphia Phillies fans insane. This is not so much an advocating for that line of thinking segment. This is a preparing you for what's coming if that happens segment. Because the Phillies will try and sell that to you. There will be people that try and sell that to you. There will be national media members that try and sell that to you. Right or wrong, it will drive you insane. But sometimes the right answer does drive you insane and you got to take your medicine. I don't know. I'm not there yet. I still am mad at the Phillies for the way that they played in that Dodgers series, and I'm not cutting them any slack, right? So don't take this as in 3 weeks or a month, I'm going to come back on this podcast and say, it's okay, you lost to that Dodgers team, because it is not. But just get ready for the narrative to shift, because if the Dodgers win it all and win it all comfortably, it will. But that's, man, until we really get to the World Series, that's probably the last we'll talk in about the NLCS. I'm not really in the mood to watch more baseball right now. I'm not really in the mood to discuss other teams. We got enough problems at home. And Thursday, we're going to have a Rob Thomson, Dave Dombrowski press conference. I'll be reacting to that on Thursday's episode, so Thursday will be a little bit later. Tomorrow, we're going to start to run through the stay or go decisions. Rob Thomson, clearly already off the board. He's staying. But what about other big names in the organization? Tomorrow will be the stay or go show. Pitchers, position players, personnel, as in coaches and managers. We'll go through all of them, all the notable ones on tomorrow's episode. But that's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating and reviewing if you're checking us out in podcast form, subscribing to the YouTube, hitting that like button on the videos you like, and I will talk to you tomorrow for the Stay or Go show on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.